Tonight, I had the honor of chairing the Land Use Board for the Borough of Beach Haven. I'd like to start by opening the meeting up for October 4th, 6 p.m. and we'll do the flag salute. So if everybody could stand. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance
To the flag
to
of
the
the
flag
States of
United
America,
States of America,
and to the republic
Republic
stands
and
which
one
stands
nation,
one
under
nation,
under
God,
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 indivisible, with
indivisible,
liberty and justice for all.
justice for all.
Pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by posting on the bulletin board in the entrance hall of Beach Haven Municipal Building and mailing the same to the Beach Haven Times and the Asbury Park Press. This meeting is a judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to issues that are relevant to what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision for each individual application. Decorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. Roll call, Mrs. Eddles,
here,
Mr. Horensky,
Yes, here.
Mrs. Lenhard, Mr. Muha,
Here.
Mr. Pisano,
Here,
Mr. Stevens,
here.
Mrs. Baxter, Mr. Meadow,
Here.
Mrs. Baumiller,
here,
Mr. Jenna, Mr. Tanquist,
Here.
Mr. Balbo,
Here.
Mr. Lafredo.
Here.
All right.
Okay, I'd like to start with new business. And the first thing on new business is really not on the agenda, but we received a letter in our packet, and I'll let Bob go ahead and explain exactly what it's all about and go from there.
Yeah, we had a meeting at the Borough Building, and the person who sent the letter was advised to bring an application. So I only found out about this letter that was in the packet from you today, Jim. Lauren just sent them to me at 5:30. I had a quick chance to peruse them. I don't think the board should discuss anything with these letters. I think I need to talk to the borough attorney because my understanding was it was going to be a formal application. So anything that's in these letters might taint that application, and I don't want to do that. It's not fair to the applicant or to anyone else. So if you have correspondence in your folder, just put it to the side for now. And we'll deal with it once we have an application in front of us, or I find out why this letter was sent to us. I didn't get a copy until Lauren sent it to me this afternoon, so, okay.
Okay, I'd like to move on with the approval of the minutes for September 7th meeting. I guess, is there any additions, corrections? And if not, I'd like to hear a motion for approval.
I so move. Any?
We had a second?
second,
Okay, thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes approved.
Okay, the next item is the approval of the bills. I assume everyone had a chance to review them, and can I hear a motion for approval?
Motion approved, Scott. Second, Ken.
All right, and Ms. Eddles,
Yes,
Mr. Horensky,
Yes.
Mr. Muha,
Yes.
Mr. Pisano,
yes,
Mr. Stevens,
Yes.
Mr. Meadow,
Yes.
Mrs. Baumiller,
yes,
Mr. Tanquist,
Yes.
Mr. Balbo,
Yes.
and Mr. Lafredo.
Yes.
Bills approved.
Okay, that's, our next item is old business, and we have a resolution 2021-14 for Rispoli. And Bob, if you'd like to make any comments on the resolution before we vote, or anybody else have any comments?
One typo, Jim. On page 3, when you read the same thing 6 times, you miss something. Paragraph number 9 says there was discussion regarding drainage and the insulation of the subsurface infiltration system. Should say installation. So when I dictated it, she typed the wrong word. I didn't pick it up because, again, I read it a couple times. So Lauren can make that change, but it should be the installation. They're supposed to put an underground infiltration system per Frank. So I would just suggest that that's the change. If anybody has anything else, we can modify it too. Otherwise, that's it.
Okay. Is there any comment from anybody on the board, or if not, can I
No.
hear,
Thank you. Bye.
if not, can I hear a motion for approval?
Motion to approve.
Second,
Joe?
second, Penny.
All right, Mr. Meadow,
Yes.
Mrs. Baumiller,
Yes.
Mr. Stevens,
yes.
Mr. Pisano,
Yes.
Mrs. Eddles,
Yes.
Mr. Muha,
Yes.
Mr. Herensky,
Yes.
Mr. Tanquist, Mr. Babo.
Yes.
All right, resolution approved.
Okay, we'll go on to our applications now, and I believe both will have a public hearing. And the first application we're going to hear is 2021-15 for Sharp. And if you remember, we heard this application last month. We asked them to make some modifications to the plan so that we could review that again.
You know, stop
And-
those.
Hmm?
You can make those today.
And Bob, you want to take,
Sure. Okay, I'm going to take a couple minutes on this. Let me just first explain. Normally, we hear attorney cases first. So, Mr. Raven, normally we'd take your case, but this is a carryover. The board had asked them to come back with some additional information, and Mr. Strunk to come back with some plans. So I just want to take a minute here. This is a use variance, so it's important that the applicant understands this. He's not represented by counsel. The mayor and designee, Nicole and Jamie Baumiller, can't participate. Nicole's not here. Jamie, you can't participate tonight because if it gets appealed, it goes back to mayor and council. The applicant has to show special reasons. The board must understand the special reasons can only be considered as special reasons that promote the general purposes of welfare and zoning. And there's two general situations. One, refusal to allow the project would be an undue hardship on the applicant. And two, when the proposed project carries out the purpose and intent of zoning. And I'm just going to read a couple notes from last meeting. Since there's no attorney, I just want to make sure it's understood here. The applicant was asked through Mr. Strunk to come back with other alternatives and add mere square footage to a non-conforming structure. And we did get a revised application from Michael Strunk, which I'm going to mark here as Exhibit A4. Mr. Sharp, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, sir. I'm going to mark your professionals' updated plans as Exhibit A4. So you can testify as to A4, and so can Michael. Frank Little gave us a revised letter, so I'm going to mark Frank's letter as Board Exhibit B3. And Mr. Sharp, you also sent some pictures to Lauren. There's two photos that I saw of impervious coverage. We'll have those marked as A5 with your permission. And with that, I'm going to swear in. I'm going to start by doing the swearing in. Frank, we'll start with you. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth?
I do.
Okay. Mr. Strunk? Michael, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth?
I do.
Okay. And Jim, he was sworn in as an expert last time, so I'll just ask the board to just continue him on as an expert. He already gave his name and address.
that's fine. Thank you.
And then Mr. Sharp, is your wife with you too? Oh, you're still muted, sir.
He's muted. Yeah.
Now you took the video off. Unmute yourself, Mr. Sharp.
All right, there's the muting. Can you hear me?
We can hear you fine, sir. Just raise your right hand. I'm going to swear you in now because you're the one that's going to be presenting the application. So raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth?
I do.
Okay. Everything you told us last month is carried over. And if you want to just start with your professional, or if you want to tell the board what's different about your plans, it's in your hands now.
Okay. I see a lot of boxes on here that are not identified people, so I just want to let them know who are listening, not identified, that I'm Ed Sharp. This is my wife, Carmela Sharp, We live here at 13 9th Street, Beach Haven. We've been here for 53 years, and welcome to everybody. I want to thank the board members for their time and efforts in behalf of all Beach Haven property taxpayers. I realize how time-consuming it can be because I spent over 10 years as a director for the board of Beach Haven Taxpayers Association. I specialized in dealing with association members' new property tax assessments during the early 2000s. In my later years, I worked with the association president and other directors to initiate and successfully campaign to change Beach Haven's form of government to council manager. It was tremendously successful and has turned out to be a tremendous move forward for Beach Haven and all of our neighbors. Enough about me. Let's get to the variance issue at hand. Thank you for voting to hold it over till tonight and for input from my architecture, Mike Struck, to work with. The new plans were submitted to the board as quickly as they were completed. As soon as I started to deep dive them and realized there was a serious problem. That is, over a year ago, my wife Carmela and I invested in solar energy for our entire home. Our roof surface is not very large, but the system worked out and provided perfectly over the hot and humid summer. Our plan was to expand the solar system to provide electricity for the elevator and increased air conditioning demand. Only way to do that is by putting new solar panels on the 6-foot extension of our main roof, which our original plan included for the elevator and wheelchair walkways. Second problem, that the elevator shaft alone for the top floor is not suitable for pneumatic elevator, as power air supply turbine should be in the attic directly above the top stop. This will not work well with the standalone shaft. Finally, will not be heated or air conditioned, the shaft. It sits directly all day in sun during the summer. Temperature on the top floor level would be extremely high. And there is no way to heat or air condition that shaft because we have hot water baseboard heat. Thank you for your kind attention. I'd like to introduce my architect, Mike Strunk, please.
Hi, I revised the plans based on last meeting, and according to Mr. Sharp's testimony, he's looking to go back to the first round that we originally did. And the new plans, I think, according to Mr. Sharp, are not what he wants. So I think he should explain more, I guess, if you want to, Mr. Sharp, go back to the first plan.
Okay, Mr. Sharp, but you're telling us the new plans are not what you want. You want to go back to the ones that the board looked at last month? Is that what you're telling us?
Sure, it's not a matter of not what I want. Basically, it's not doable and won't work and will not work properly and will do nothing but cause us problems and aggravation going forward. I didn't realize that when it was originally recommended, but I'm a man that looks into things thoroughly, tries to look to the future and figure out what would happen so that I don't get caught. My wife and I at 79 years old in a situation that is draining capital and draining our willingness to go on. So I'm very sorry. I really appreciate what the board members did for us at the last meeting, but it just won't work properly, and it's not what we plan to do. We have a fully solar house, which is a benefit to the community, and we need the elevator. I've made that case already. If anybody has any questions, give them to me. But we have to have the elevator, but it has to be done so that it works with our house, not that it's an oddball, odd looking, not functional solution. And I appreciate Mr. Strunk's work on it. I just, I was aware of things that he wasn't aware of, and that was the problem. So it's my fault. And I'm glad to answer any questions or any issues that any board member has. I've worked on this for 2 years, and that's where I am. I wish I could have accepted the other idea, but when I looked into it and realized I had a problem with my solar, there was no way I could expand it to handle the electricity demand. And also the problems with the shaft, with the no temperature control. At 79, 80 years old, we need temperature control more than you younger folks.
Okay.
Bob, I have 2 questions. One, does this mean we're going back to the original design and that's it? And then for Mike, do you agree with Mr. Sharp's assessment of the new design?
Well, I believe Mr. Sharp needs the extra solar and AC. That's his thing. I can't speak for that. I don't know what really is on the house solar wise, but I take his word for it. So, but yeah, I think we're heading back towards the first plan.
That's what it sounds like. That's exactly what it sounds like.
So it's Frank Little. Can the roof just be extended over the 2 open decks on the 3rd floor and still provide the shade that the elevator shaft needs without enclosing them?
It could, as
And the
long as
solar
that's
real.
not
And then the
considered.
solar panels would extend over the extended roof area, which would give you the electricity for the shaft.
That could be a possibility.
So
And then-
I'd also, Frank, I'd also like to ask why the west facing roof can't contain some of the solar panels as well. If I were to put solar on my house, and I've had it looked at, my roof is similar to his. It's north facing and south facing, and the south facing roof
Can
component
I answer
is
that question?
perfectly adequate for solar.
Am I allowed to answer that question?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Because the west is already covered.
So both roof lines are covered with
Both
solar?
roofs. We have a small house, small roof.
So my question was, if you extend the roof the way you originally had it over the 2 open decks, doesn't that give you the additional area you need for solar to take care of the elevator shaft? Without enclosing. the 2
I
decks?
don't think so. I don't know for sure. I mean, you have to go out there and start measuring, but the peak on our roof is very high upstairs where the bedrooms are. We have very high ceilings in the middle and lower ceilings on the sides as they come down. I don't know how much room there is, but it still leaves us with the problem of the power box, which is 2 feet high by 3 feet wide by, I think, 2.5 feet deep, and a 4-inch PVC pipe is supposed to be above the elevator container, and with the single staff coming up out there, you don't make it. I mean, I just don't know the answer. Listen, I mean, I'm willing to agree if you let us enclose it the way we originally wanted to enclose it, or if you were to vote for that positively, I'm willing to agree that the biggest problem I heard last month about our plan was a concern that we would have a fifth bedroom by taking a big bedroom and turning it into two small bedrooms. Many of the board members kept voicing that concern, that we were adding a bedroom to the house, like we were going to rent the house out to multiple families or something like that. This house we've owned in our family since it was built and has never for one day been rented out. So I can assure you it's not going to be rented out. But I would agree, and my wife would agree, we already sat down and discussed this thoroughly, that if you were to let us just close it in properly, if you would let us do that, we would agree not to make the one bedroom, two bedrooms. We would agree absolutely not to do that. And, you know, we're willing to do that in order to, you know, get the elevator, which we absolutely need, and have it done right with the solar, and not, you know, not gerrymandered, not look like the house that Jack built. My one neighbor, who's the closest to me on the one side, said to me, Eddie, geez, I love the first plan, but then the second plan, they put a deck out there right next to my my bedroom window, my master bedroom window. Why'd you do that? I said, I did it because that's what they wanted me to do. So, but I just want to let you know that these are not simple things. And we're not a developer coming in looking to, you know, make money on Beach Haven. I mean, all of the years we've spent money on Beach Haven, all of the years we volunteered, my wife volunteered for many years at the Surf Light, for many years at the museum, and also the Long Beach Island Garden Club. It's a wonderful street we live on. Everybody has gardens. It's the most important thing around here. That place looks beautiful. And I want my house to look beautiful, and I want it to be right.
Any comments, other comments from the board? Nope. Bob, do we need to open up a public hearing again, or?
Yes, yes, absolutely. Mr. Sharp, are you done testifying at this point? If we open it to the public? Or do you want Michael?
Do I
Strunk
get to do a summation at the end?
Yeah, you have a summation if you're done testifying. Do you need
Okay.
any?
I'm fine as long as I get to do, you know, at the end, and just have something to say.
Okay. Mr. Strunk, did you want to say anything more before they open it to the public?
No, I think everything's been said so far.
Yeah, Jim, if you want to open it.
Any of the board members like to speak at this time before we open it up?
I have a question. If it's possible for Bob or Lauren to just review the minutes of last month to give us a little clearer idea of what our objections were on this property.
I think one of the big objections, it's an undersized lot. The impervious coverage was, I believe, 95%. And, you know, this is going to, it's not going to do anything to eliminate that. The big issue here is it's a use variance. And use variances are really difficult to grant. And that's why the board wanted them to come back and try to keep it in the confines of the same parameter what's there already. That's why we went through, you know, there was a lot of suggestions about putting it through the garage. And, you know, I got pages and notes on that. But the long and short was, in order to try to keep it, you know, and this was Mr. Little's suggestion, in order to try to keep it so we didn't make the house a lot bigger, was to change it, reconfigure it. And that's why Mr. Strunk presented these new plans that the applicant doesn't want to go forward with at this point. So basically, it's just because the lot's small and there's a lot on the lot. And the impervious coverage is so much of the existing lot.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Anyway, yeah, my concern is the fact that it is, you know, the use variance, they're over the square footage. I don't have the issue of accommodating for the elevator in a reasonable manner, but just I think we're adding another 200 and some square feet of living space. And that's the objection is how do we accommodate for the elevator without increasing the size of the house itself? And even the plan that I see submitted here, you know, the one bedroom's like 9 feet 9 inches by 17 feet. I don't believe that 17 feet long, narrow, you know, provides anything. I'm not so sure that that area needs to be expanded out onto the deck. You know, the other area, yes, the bedroom would be too small, but a lot of it, in my perspective, is we're over the square footage allowed, and we're going to increase it another 220 feet. You know, I think that's over and above.
So this is Scott. I would think that for a solar installation, the solar contracting professional who would be doing it would assess the need and provide a kind of a plan for what's needed. Do we have something like that, or have you done that yourself?
I've basically done it myself. Ever since we installed the system, I track it every day. And I know that based on what I was assessed at, a maximum this summer with the heat and the humidity and us being here 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Plus, I don't go to the beach anymore because I can't walk. The house is where we live. So I know that we use about 140 kilowatt hours in a winter month, but in July and August, we use close to 2,000 each month. So we're pretty much at our limit. We invested in the solar system, considerable amount of funds, because we wanted to do what was right. I know for a fact they wound up putting more panels on the as the gentleman before recommended, west side of the house. They had to put a lot more on to get us to where we're a little bit above even right now. So I know that 6 feet each panel is 3 feet wide, pretty much by 3 feet in height. If you have 6 feet, you can put at the peak on each side, 4 panels on each side for a total of 8 panels, which would perfectly handle the electricity needed for the elevator and also the increased air conditioning to make sure the increased area in the house is covered properly. That's the best I can tell you. I haven't had a pro come in and do that, but in the beginning, in order to make a decision to invest in a solar system, I went through a lot of deep dive work with the people from Sun Solar to come up with the figures and everything to make sure we were getting a reasonable buy, something that we could afford to handle.
Are there any other questions from board members before we open up to the public?
I have,
Yeah, it's just,
I think I heard that, Ed, your concern was you needed to add additional air conditioning to the additional living space that was proposed. Is that what I heard you just say?
Yes. We were adding actually the 6 feet on the rear of the house, which goes to the same plane as my two neighbors right alongside of me, right alongside of me.
That was different than what, that is different than what you said.
It's in the sun all the time.
holy jeez.
It's
It's
in the
different than
summer,
what
it's almost as long as it's light.
The north side of the house is not in the sun all the time.
In my house it is, in the summer. Now, this time of year, no. In fact, I lose a lot of production from my solar system at this time of year because the sun dives down into the southwest early.
Ed, what I heard you say initially is your concern was that the shaft itself was heating up and it would go way above ambient in the summer. And it basically, I assumed, I'm making an assumption here, that it would heat the interior of your house due to that high temperature in the shaft. Is that inaccurate?
Well, I mean, you would keep the doors from the shaft closed and from the elevator itself. The elevator takes up most of the shaft. Almost all of it, except for some insulation. But to get in the elevator on the third floor, like especially my wife, it's up and down hundreds of times a day with laundry, because our laundry is down in the basement, up and down, up and down, up and down. And she has to do it all because I can't go up and down the stairs that we have. We only have outdoor stairs on this house because it was built originally as a beach house in 1968 with only stairs, outdoor stairs on both sides. When it rains, when it snows, when it's sleet and hail, forget about it.
Any other questions or comments? If not,
I want to understand, what are we trying to solve for? We're trying to add additional solar panels so he has enough power to run everything he needs?
Well, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know. Were you asking me? I can't tell if you're asking me.
I was asking, I guess, Frank.
Oh,
Yeah, this is Tom Miller. I had a question for Frank as well. Because Frank, you said something about having roof line over the top of the proposed porches on the second plans. So that would be in line with the original roof, which would keep the solar panels contiguous, correct?
That's correct. So if you
And there's
extended
no
it,
additional living space.
there wouldn't be any
Correct.
additional living space, but the roof line would be extended over and shade the elevator shaft. And it would look like the roof line on the original plan in the side elevation number 7. So you would just extend the roof, get the 8 panels, and you'd actually have less area in the upper bedroom to heat and air conditioning. But then the elevator shaft will be shaded by the roof overhang over the decks. And I would assume on the lower floors, you're going to have the elevator and it's going to be in air conditioned and heated space because it'll be totally inside the building at that point.
So I think his net benefit would be better off than where he is now.
I mean, from a space, a habitable heated space area would be.
okay.
The only other option that he mentioned was that if you allowed him to have what he had on the first plan, he wouldn't create the 2 bedrooms on the upper floor. So basically the elevator would come up and you wouldn't put those other walls in.
right.
And the bedroom would just get bigger and have like 2 alcoves in it where the deck would be.
But the next guy might.
So
Yeah, and I don't think Mr. Sharp understands that the concern that most of us have is not necessarily with him and his family, is it's the next owners and what they're going to want to do with the house. If there are in fact any.
yeah, you'd have to have some kind of a deed restriction and you'd have to police it somehow to make sure the interior walls were never installed on the upper floor.
I'd be willing to do that.
Well, the only time there's inspections is when there's a CO. So
Right.
this
So, I mean, if the house was sold and, yeah, I don't know.
It
That's
doesn't.
unpoliceable.
It really is, yeah.
Yeah, we can come back to our discussion. Can we open it up to the public? Do I need a motion for that?
Yes.
Motion to open, Tom.
A second, Penny.
And I guess we don't need to do a roll call, do we? Just
No, no.
Okay, I'll say yes. Okay.
Yeah, if anybody has anything from the public to say, you can just unmute yourself and begin speaking, or you can press the raise your hand button. I will unmute you and I'll call on you.
Hey, I don't know if you can hear me okay. My name is Joe Mack and I'm
Joe,
Ed's neighbor.
Let me swear you in. Okay,
Sure.
if you're going to testify, I have to swear you in. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and I need your address, please.
Sure. My name is Joe Mackin, 9 East 9th Street in Beach Haven. So we're the house to the east of Ed, right next door. So our families have been neighbors for over 40 years. So we live on the same size lot in a 5-bedroom home. It's a 5-bedroom home that I'll say, like many people in Beach Haven, 20 years ago was a big house, but as our family has grown, it's gotten smaller and smaller every year. But it's a great place to be, and Beach Haven's wonderful. It's really tough to see what's gone on with Ed over the last few years. I've known Ed all that time, and to see his limited mobility is, it's sad to see. And, our days on the beach are gone because Ed's ability to get to the beach up the stairs is no longer. So, and also to watch Camille, who we've also known all those years, to be up and down the stairs all the time, doing all the chores that Ed used to do. It's pretty difficult on her. And nothing personal, Ed, but you're not getting any younger, neither is Camille. So I guess none of us are, but to see that they live there and what they have to go through to maintain it, it's pretty tough. So the first plans we were fine with. The second plans, though, have as you've noted, have 2 porches on the back. And one of them, as Ed mentioned earlier, is right next to our master bedroom. So, and the way the houses are fairly close together in Beach Haven. So our master bedroom was right next door to where the porch would be. So we're 100% in favor of the variance that Ed has requested. We know it's a difficult for you folks, but the plan that we prefer is the original plan that Ed had proposed to you folks with the expansion rather than decks on the back. So I don't know if there's any questions I can answer for you or if that's clear to you.
We have any other input from the public? Lauren, you see anyone?
I do not see anybody.
Okay.
Wait, I see Judy Nelson raising her hand.
Ma'am, do you wish to speak? Okay, you got to unmute yourself. Apparently you're muted.
She is unmuted. I'm not quite sure if her microphone is working.
We can't hear you, Ms. Nelson. Can you speak? We can't hear you. We're not hearing anything. Okay. There's some technical glitch on her end, so you're muted again. No, Lauren, you don't have her muted, right, Lauren?
Nope, she's not muted.
Okay. So whatever is, Ms. Nelson, it's on your end.
Okay.
We tried.
Move forward here. Any other Lauren raising their hands?
Nope,
see?
I do not see anybody else.
Okay.
We have a motion to close.
Motion to close. And do we have a second on that? Did I hear a motion? Okay. Thank you. Any more discussion from the board members? Okay, I guess from here, Bob, were you going to allow Mr. Sharp to make a final comment?
If he wants to do a final comment, sure, sure. And Mr. Sharp, you got to remember, this is a really tough variance, so, you
Okay,
know,
well, I thought I was entitled to a brief summation.
you are, you go ahead, go ahead.
I wanted to ask Ms. Caravano if she got the documents I sent her today and asked her to add to the file.
The only ones that I can present are the two pictures that you sent over.
Oh, you didn't get the type PP?
I did, but we cannot mark that as evidence.
It's not an exhibit, Mr. Sharp. That's what you're supposed to present as your legal argument. So without reading the entire thing.
But I'm allowed to show it on the camera now, right?
Well, you have your job. You didn't want to have an attorney, so you can't present a statute and say that's evidence. You have to explain why you think that statute, you meet the criteria of that statute. That's your job. It's not for us to
Okay.
read the statute and tell you you're right.
So
For
I'm
you to
not
explain
allowed
to us
put
why
it
the
on
statute
camera like
applies
that.
to
So everybody can see it.
If the board knows what the law is, then it's your burden of proof to prove why you should get these variances. You're asking for a use variance, and you have to show the board why this is an exceptional hardship to you, that you need to increase the size of the density, all the other things that we've talked about.
I believe that I tried to do that over the last two meetings to the best of my ability. But my summation is this: 35 certified letters were sent out to immediate neighbors. Okay. Now there was 6 people last meeting and 1 today. 7 people called in with testimony. Okay, nothing but positive. So out of all those immediate neighbors that we sent certified letters to, out of the 7 people who called in, everything positive, or at least nothing whatsoever negative, only positive. Nothing but positive. Okay, now, according to the New Jersey Code, 209 New Jersey Code, Title 40, Municipalities and Counties, 4055D, 4055D-4, definitions D2L. I'm going to read the definition of inherent beneficial use that's in the code that you people work by and abide by. And it basically says, or means a use which is universally considered of value to the community, value to the community, because it fundamentally serves the public good and promotes the general welfare. Such a use includes, but is not limited to, a hospital, a school, a child care center, a group home, a wind, a solar energy facility or structure. So my position is that my plan and what I'm asking you to approve is a solar project, because it is. And we already did a solar project that has provided the community, Beach Haven, you folks as neighbors, all of us, with benefits that cannot be denied. They're right here in the law that you represent and are asked to abide by. So I feel that this gives you justification for the one side of the equation. The equation is it going to do anything good, or is it going to do anything bad to approve this? Okay, this tells you that you're doing good to approve it. And in your own conscience, it should give you justification to say it's doing good for the community, okay, as the law states. On the other side of it is, what damage can it do to let us, we've had this house all these years. Everything we've done to it has been top notch. We always paid our taxes. We always paid our water bill. I mean, everything. We put up with damage when they put in new water pipes out in the street. They broke our water pipe, wound up flooding. You know, we've done everything good. We've done the best we can do. And I think this inherent beneficial use gives each of you, neighbors of mine, the ability to vote positively on this. Thank you very much. I know I took a lot of your time, but I'm praying and hoping that you'll do the right thing.
Okay, any other comments from the board members? If not, do I hear a motion to either approve or disapprove this?
Jim, let me just make sure everybody understands. 7 people can vote on this, only 7. So the alternates, we got to go through the priority. I'm sorry if you're 1, 2, 3, or 4. But Mrs. Eddles, Mr. Herensky, Mr. Muha, Mr. Pisano, Mr. Stevens, Mr. Metal, and let me see, Mr. Tinquist. You were here last meeting, was that correct, Alan?
He's muted.
Al, you're muted.
I was here
Okay,
last meeting.
Okay, I'm sorry, Mr. Balbo, but that's the 7. You can vote on the next one, but it's you 7 to make the motion and vote on this.
Bob, I have a question first. Are we,
Sure.
is the board considering this with the fact that we're not going to add another bedroom on the upper floor?
Frank,
Just want to make sure we understand that that's the amended plan, even though we don't have a revised drawing.
he wants to go with his first plan, and then he said he was
But
going
then
to
he
just have
mentioned that he
bedroom.
would go with the 1 bedroom on the upper floor. So I just want to make sure we're clear on that before we take a vote.
Yeah.
I don't know how you clarify that with Mr. Sharp or.
Well, that's what he said, and that's what the board, that's what the discussion was, and we went back and forth on how would we ever enforce that. How do we
Right,
know that
okay, I
you can-
just wanted to, I
So,
mean,
yeah.
if it's, all right,
We're going back with the first plan. Forget what Mr. Strunk did with the second plan. The vote here tonight is to go with the first plan and modify it to 1 bedroom instead of 2. And do you think that this is worthy of a use variance? It requires 5 affirmative votes to pass this.
How many people do we have for vote?
7.
7.
7.
Okay, do I hear a motion either to approve or disapprove this application as originally submitted last month?
I'll make a motion to approve. I do agree with Frank. It would be nice to have the 1 bedroom if that's going to cause people to vote no. I certainly would want to have that included somehow. I don't understand how it could be enforced.
It could
But I would
be,
approve it. Go ahead, Scott.
couldn't that be enforced on a following sale to ensure that a bedroom, like 2 sales down the road to ensure a bedroom had not been added?
Well,
Without-
yeah, actually what happens is there's a CO requirement, but as everybody knows, a lot of people have, they have fixtures and things like that on the bottom where they're not supposed to have anything, and they just take it out when the CO inspection's done, and then they put it right back in when the house is sold. So there's no way other than the CO inspection it can be enforced. Without the township
Okay,
officials can't go in and look
right.
what's going on there.
Well, I'll still make a motion to approve. And any other conditions that come up, I'll certainly agree with if it means getting it approved. And I do understand Jim's point. Letter of the law, yeah, 200 additional square feet's rough. But then you have to look at Ed and his wife and the quality of life and their efforts to bring in solar. I know that takes a lot of effort. We're doing it ourselves. And basically it'll take care of all of our electrical needs and will also contribute back to the grid. So I do agree with that whole concept. And And I agree with his neighbor too, Mr. Mackin, I believe his name was. They're good people. They're good Beach Haven people. Sometimes the board has to bear a heavy burden on this. I mean, it takes a lot to consider this, and I agree with all of the pros and cons, but at the end of the day, I have to consider the applicant and what he's done to make things better in Beach Haven. Not only with the money they've spent, but their personal contribution to the town. So I'm going to go for the affirmative on this. I'm going to make a motion to approve.
I hear a second.
A second, Penny.
For the same reasons, Penny, or did you want to add anything?
Basically, yes, just the same reasons. Yeah.
All right, Mr. Meadow,
Mr. Sharp has made a lot of really good reasons as to why this is a use that he needs. Wasn't very forthcoming in wanting to try to work with us for him coming to us to ask to amend things. At the end of the day, the 200 square feet of living space, a 20 by 10 foot area, I don't think is going to break the bank on this one. I say yes.
Mr. Stevens,
No.
Mr. Muha,
My initial reaction was to be no. I think that Mr. Sharp, in the way that he presented his case and trying to put a person ahead of the number, I think Ed convinced me. And I also believe that 200 square feet in Beach Haven, based on the Sharps' needs, I vote yes.
Mr. Horensky,
I think I would have liked to have seen a better second plan that they could have removed the neighbors had a problem with the decks. Well, the decks aren't a must, and you could have met his needs with the second plan without the decks. It would not have increased the living space. It would have increased his solar capacity. And I think that is still an option that should have been further explored and pursued. So for those reasons, I'm going to say no.
Mr. Tinquist,
I think Mr. Sharp made a good case, and on a personal level, I understand his needs. But having just redone my house, I stayed within the confines of the square footage and all that. I'm going to say yes.
right, application approved.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, and I apologize for not putting this forward first. Application 2021-16, 106 North Bay Avenue. And I guess we have legal representation here.
Yes, good evening. James Raven on behalf of the applicant, 106 North Bay Ave LLC.
Okay, let me just take a minute here. This is a coffee shop, and Jim, as I understand it, they want to put a little concession area, I guess, on the roof.
Correct, yeah, rooftop seating area.
Rooftop seating, okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark the exhibits up front so we get that out of the way. The application itself, without the attachment of the exhibits, will be A1. Rob Roth's letter, plan dated July 2021. It's a minor site plan. We'll do that as A2. Leon Tiska's survey will be A3. Jim's proof of service, the certified mail will be A4. And then we have 3 letters from Frank. B1 will be his August 19th letter, deeming it incomplete. And then there's 2 complete letters. One's 2 pages and one's 3 pages, both updated the 17th of September. So those will be B2 and B3. The B2 will be the 2-page letter, B3 will be the 3-page letter. So that being said, Frank's still sworn in. Jim, if you want to take it from here.
Thank you. So the subject property is located at 106 North Bay Avenue, right on the boulevard. It's next to which is now the How to Live West on the west side of the boulevard. How to Live is on the corner of Center Street and the boulevard. And if you're facing that, this is immediately to the right of that to the north. And it's my understanding that the Coffee Nest business itself was originally approved by the three-person panel rather than a formal application before the land use board. And that was the approval that was received to allow the coffee shop business to go forward. And what the applicant is looking to do here is, right now it's a 1-story building. There's no proposed changes to the first floor area. There is currently no seating downstairs. It's a counter, and they sell coffee, some baked goods. And what the applicant is looking to do is, right now there's pretty much a flat roof above the building. The overall height is only 16.6 feet. And what they're looking to do is convert that roof area into a tiered seating area so that they can actually have some seating up on that roof. And there would be stairs to access that roof from inside the building. And as can be seen on Mr. Roth's plan, there's some proposed tables and chairs. There's several tiers of decking that's proposed on the roof. And it's pretty straightforward. Mr. Roth is going to testify regarding his plan. The owner of the building, 106 North Bay Ave LLC. The sole member of that LLC is Jill Chichurchia. Jill is present along with her husband, Frank Chichurchia. And the Coffee Nest is operated by Grace Haberlein. She's also present. She will testify as well regarding the business itself and answer any questions the board may have regarding the business. But first, I'd like to call Rob Roth and get into some more detail regarding the plan.
Mr. Roth, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth?
I do.
Okay.
For the record, Rob Roth, architect, professional planner with offices in Brant Beach.
And he's testified before, Jim, so I'll ask the board to just recognize him.
Okay, that's fine.
Good evening, board.
Mr. Roth, we marked as Exhibit A2 a minor site plan that was prepared under your signature. Why don't you, for the benefit of the board, just give an overview of the site and what we're proposing. You can go through both the first floor plan, the second floor plan, and then answer any questions the board may have.
Absolutely. In essence, this is an existing 1-story masonry building with a business located on the first floor. Their desire, since they really don't have any seating area, was to make the experience in the use of the building a little more enjoyable and offer some outdoor seating. The flat roof is existing, as you can see in the building section elevation. The front half of that roof does have a pretty substantial pitch to it, which is why I tiered the seating area. We're asking to install a interior staircase, which would lead up to an area, you call it a stair tower, as you can see in the elevation, and that would access the first deck, and then steps to the second deck, and then steps to the third deck. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. We also are providing an emergency fire ladder in the back should there ever be a problem, some type of a fire. Being a first responder, I always think safety first, so there's always a way to get off that roof. In the back portion of that building, it's only about 9 feet. So that gives them that access. And we also discussed the possibility that along with the construction we're going to be doing, which is minor and is cost-wise would be way under the 50% rule. We're also going to be installing a fire alarm system, which I always recommend to my clients as we know this is a seasonal area, and smoke detectors save lives, but somebody's got to be there to hear it. So a fire alarm system indicates and goes right to dispatch. You got a fire company coming right around the corner. Beach Haven's one of the finest that I know, other than Ship Bottom.
Thank you, Mr. Roth. And there's a number of existing nonconformities relative to the building, and we're requesting a variance with respect to parking. Is that correct?
Yes, the existing nonconformities, basically the building is where it is. It's been there for a long time. I don't believe any of these small businesses on Bay Avenue have the required parking. Everybody it's kind of a walk-up business. There is parking out front provided by on the boulevard or Bay Avenue, and it's always been workable. So I don't believe the need is there to provide parking, and there's really no place to put it. It hasn't been there, and there's really no place to put it. The building itself actually encroaches a little onto the, I guess, the front there, just a few inches. So again, this is an existing structure. All we're trying to do is provide some additional outdoor seating during the summer, some glass railings, just to make it a little bit more enjoyable. You get yourself a bagel, cup of coffee, you can go upstairs and enjoy it at a table. Watch the crowds down on the street.
And the proposed height, as I stated earlier, currently it's 16.6 feet. We're proposing to go to 21.5 feet. Is that to the top of that stair tower?
That is to the top of that stair tower, and I believe we're allowed 35 feet in the commercial, so we're way under that.
And if you could just explain a little bit how the configuration of that stair works from the first floor to the rooftop.
Basically, the stair is two-tiered. Building codes require that a stair be no more than a 12-foot rise. And since we're more than 12 feet, I had to break the stair in half. So you get a landing midway.
Okay.
So Rob, it's Frank Little. I have a question. On
Hi, Frank.
Mr. Tiska's drawing, it shows that rear deck area is covered. On your drawing, it doesn't appear to indicate there's anything there. So what is on that rear deck?
That rear deck is covering an outdoor space, and it's almost like being on a covered deck. There's nothing really there. It's just it's more of a storage area. You see that covered deck?
Yeah, but is any part of that enclosed?
No, it is not.
All right. Only because I didn't see anything on your plan other than an outline of it.
I've been there numerous times doing measurements, so and so forth. The one-story frame dwelling and that covered deck, it's there. It's not enclosed. And one side has like some lattice work on it, but other than that, it's not. It's outdoor space with a cover over it.
So basically, if you walk around to the back of the building, you do see that rear door that's on your plan.
Yes.
All right.
I have a question. This is Penny. If I recall, when you come into the nest, the coffee nest now, the coffee location is like up 2 steps, I think. There's just a little lower area below it. And then the coffee's up 2 steps. And then there's other things they sell in the back. Is that correct?
Yes.
I have the right
basically,
location?
No, you got it. You walk in, there's like a small vestibule there. There's a ramp to the one side that, goes up and comes back. And then there's directly, as you walk through that door, a couple steps up to that level, And then you have your counter for your coffee. And as the property is utilized, it's a coffee shop. And then they have all kinds of cool stuff that's for sale. And then back areas are storage and so on and so forth. So it's
Well-
really just a very small little shop.
Right. So is there a plan then to have people go up inside staircases to get to the rooftop? Is
That
that
is correct. That's the way it's been designed.
to the back right, I guess, is where the staircase would be?
It would be on the southerly side mid-building.
And are they planning to do any other food service up there besides just the coffee and the pastries?
It is my understanding coffee and pastries is all they're interested in doing. And the upstairs deck is only a place to take your coffee and bagel and sit down and enjoy it. No food will be prepared on those decks.
You buy it and bring it up there? You
I'm
buy
sorry?
it and take it up yourself. You're not served it, correct?
No, there's no service. It's just another place that you can go and enjoy your coffee and bagel or
There's
pastry.
no additional employees. Okay.
No.
I like the idea of a place to sit and enjoy your coffee. I think we can't have enough of that in town. I think it promotes people coming out and doing this kind of thing. Is lack of handicap access to that deck a problem for this plan?
No, usually since we're not really changing the use and we're under the 50%, if they have tables outside, which I know are permitted in the borough, they can provide the service outside. No handicap access would be required to this new deck area according to the building codes.
Okay, good.
I researched that pretty much because I'm always in favor of everybody having access. That's some of you might know, I sit on Long Beach Township Land Use Board, and we get a lot of applications for elevators and so on and so forth, and accessing rooftop decks. And I find that that's important, but I don't think it's important here in as much as this project is small enough that the building codes would not require us to provide handicap access.
Mhm.
Are those outside tables going to be able to remain next year?
I would probably say that since the majority of their business, and Amy and Grace can answer this better, is during the summer and the spring and the fall. Other than that, I'm sure there'll be some type of a waterproof resin type table and chairs that are relatively heavy. They would be stored up against the stair tower during the winter and probably most likely covered. That's what I would do.
No, my question was really COVID related. I didn't know if a lot of these outside seating areas that have been permitted by the town due to COVID will now be gone next summer.
That I don't know. We all don't know when we're going to be back to normal. But, you know, given the fact that outdoor dining has been thoroughly enjoyed during this pandemic, and I think it's a wonderful idea to be able to provide it for this business.
That's
and
true.
Within the building, the confines of the building and up on the roof where they can be outside in a nice environment and enjoy their coffee. I mean, I would, if I was going to go over and have a cup of coffee, I don't want to drive around in my truck and drink the coffee. I would rather go upstairs and sit at a table.
Right.
But it does
I have a
address
question
the
for
handicap
Rob.
issue. Sorry, Joe. go
Again, the
ahead.
handicap
No,
issue
no,
is
finish.
something to be discussed, but it's not required by the building codes.
I just had a quick question. I've been trying to do like a scenario of people coming in and going upstairs, and then the people upstairs are coming down. So again, I'm not really familiar with what you have to do, Rob, for something like this, but there would kind of like be two-way traffic, right, on this stairway?
It's always,
thought to that?
yeah, it's always potential, and that's why the staircase is wider than normal.
Good.
You know, most of your staircases are 3 feet wide. This is around 4 feet, so getting two
Good.
people past it, you know, somebody walking up with a cup of coffee and somebody's coming down, somebody's going to wait on a landing and wait for them to come down. People are patient and
Right.
courteous.
Right, what about the refuse up there? Would people throw away their cups up there into a garbage receptacle or something?
I'm sure that the owners would most likely put some type of a receptacle up there, which
Okay.
would be monitored by
Sure.
the employees downstairs.
Okay,
I don't see that being an issue.
no,
I'd rather see a receptacle up there so that they don't just
Right.
leave it on the table to
Right.
blow away.
right, okay.
Does this present a problem with trash removal now that they'll have 7 more tables of people with coffee and?
I don't
Plates.
see it as, I don't see that as an issue.
How do they get rid of their trash now? Does it go out the back of the?
No, it goes out the front
Ah.
door and over to the side street to be picked up by the trash. I don't see this as generating a whole lot more trash, and as much as they're most likely are not going to generate a lot more traffic. We're just providing the traffic that does go to this coffee shop a place to sit.
Place to go, right.
That's it. That's really what we're doing. I don't see there's being like, well, you've got 3 bags of trash today and you're going to have 6 tomorrow. I don't see that happening. That's not the intent.
And regarding the trash, I'll have the owners of the business elaborate on that a little bit, but it's the intent for purposes of this approval to just have the approval to take the trash in and out the front door. There's enough space in the rear of the property for cans, and then they don't expect a large volume of trash based upon the nature of their business. And then in off hours, they would be able to just bring the trash through the facility and then out the front. And exactly where they're going to put the garbage, I suppose it's really whatever the borough would prefer. As far as being on Bay Ave, they're happy to move it around the corner to Center Street. I believe right now it's sort of behind how to live there, but again, we're not asking for any approval to use any portion of any of the neighboring owners' properties. We just want to be able to go in and out the front door.
And this was originally,
I have a question.
That's the way it's been done for.
I have a question too.
Yeah, this is Jamie. So your rear yard setback's only 1.64 feet. So there is where are the garbage cans? I mean, you're going from a predominantly takeout business to a 28-seat little mini.
Those trash cans are within the area that what we have been referring to as the covered deck. That's an outside space.
So we're back to wheeling them through the restaurant to get rid of the refuse.
That's the only way you're going to get the trash in and out of this building. That's the way it's been since this building's been built.
Right.
I wasn't involved with the pizza shop application, but I happened to be present. So I know there was a lot of discussion about this in that matter. I think one of the differences there was that was a 24-hour restaurant those were the hours they were proposing. So the question was, how are they going to get garbage through there while there's potentially customers inside if they were never having any closed hours? But here, that wouldn't be an issue because they'll be closed overnight every night.
Okay.
I don't recall a couple, was it 2 years ago? When did they go through with when were they approved for their coffee shop?
I'm not exactly sure. Why don't we swear in Grace? I believe we're going to swear in first. Is she available?
Wait, I have one more thing.
Sure.
The covered porch, though, it's enclosed. The trash cans are not under a covered porch. The porch is enclosed. So I don't know where their garbage cans are, probably on the property next door. I don't think there is any garbage area.
That's better answered by the use people. Grace. I don't operate the business. I can't speak to that.
Yeah,
And
Rob, it's Frank Little. Yeah, I agree. I mean, my understanding is that rear deck has some kind of enclosure around it. And we need to hear a little more from the owner as to how that got there and what it's used for.
Sure.
I think it's always been there, but let the owner discuss that.
And I guess one other question for Mr. Raven. Can you give us some background? I don't recall this coffee shop being a site plan approval before the board. I'm assuming 3-person committee at some point, but
Yeah.
I don't know the history of it.
Right, it's my understanding that it was approved by the three-person committee within the last couple of years. I'll have the applicant the business owner testify as to that. It's my understanding the only site plan that was ever approved was when it was an ice cream shop back in 1997. And then since then, I guess it's only been before the three-person committee, and most recently the coffee shop was before the three-person committee.
All right, well, I think we need some testimony on that. That's all.
Sure. Yep. Let's see. Is Grace available? I don't see her yet.
Hi, I'm here under Amy Haberline.
Hi, Amy. Or hi, Grace. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thanks. Are you able to get video or just audio?
Yeah, 1 second.
Sure.
Hi.
Hi, Grace. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thanks. So, well, first let Mr. Shin swear you in. Excuse me.
And do you swear, would you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth?
I do.
Okay, and your name, please?
Grace Tobias.
Spell that.
D-E-B as in boy, I-A-S-E.
And your address.
My address,
Yes.
33 Bolton Lane in West Creek.
Thank you, ma'am. Tim?
Thank you. And so, Grace, you run the Coffee Nest business that's currently at the site?
Yes.
And how long have you been running that business?
Since 2017.
And do you recall at that time, did you have to go before the Beach Haven's three-person committee in order to be permitted to have that business there?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Sure. Did you need any type of approval to put the coffee shop there? Any
Yeah.
approval from Beach Haven?
Yes.
What type of approval was it?
We had to be approved for our pastries, our food items, and what else? I think that was it.
Was there a three-person committee that you recall? You didn't go before this board, is that correct?
No.
Okay. But it was possibly a three-person committee where they reviewed the proposed use and you were approved?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. And where do you cook the pastries?
We have them baked every morning at Birdie's Cafe in Harvey Cedars. My mom owns the cafe.
Okay.
So we get everything fresh every morning from Birdie's.
So there's no cooking on site as of right now?
No.
What are your current hours of operation during the season and then also during the off season?
Season 7 to 7 and off seasons probably like 7 to 4, 7 to 5.
Okay. And what else do you sell in there other than the pastries and the coffee?
Pastries, coffee, smoothies. We do avocado toast, and that's really it. Bagels.
Okay. And where are the trash cans currently for the business?
The trash cans are right outside of our enclosed porch area. Like right when you open the door, they're right there.
Are they, where is that door? Is that straight out the back or is it off the side of that back porch?
It's straight out the back.
Okay.
They're right along, they're like right there. We've never had any issues with them there.
So is there room for garbage cans? So if you, Lauren, are you able to show Rob Ross' plan?
Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much. And if you could show the top portion of that, if you wouldn't mind just, yeah, there you go. Okay, so if you look at where it says existing, do you mind, I'm sorry, rotating that counterclockwise? Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So where it says existing one-story building, Grace, you have this, on the right-hand side of that is your covered porch. If you're facing the rear of the building, it looks like there's an area where the building cuts in there, where there's a little, almost to the extent there's a yard on this property, that would be your biggest yard area in between that and the building next door to the south.
Yes.
What's in that area? Are there, could the garbage cans fit there?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Is there anything in that area right now?
No.
Okay. To me, it looks like that would be the most logical place within your property to put the garbage cans. Because I agree with Mrs. Ballmiller that it straight out the back, there's not a whole lot of room there before you hit the property line.
Right.
Okay. And as far as the garbage right now, do you take it out the front or do you go across the neighbor's property? Because I know there is a dumpster.
Yeah, I mean, we've done both. We've never had issues going through the other property.
Mhm.
Everyone seems to be on top of whose is whose and everything like that.
Okay. And for, just so you understand, for purposes of this approval, if you're able to work things out with your neighbor, that's fine. But for purposes of this approval, we're only asking that you be able to go in and out your front door with the garbage. And you're okay with that?
Yeah, that's no problem.
And would you put a trash receptacle on the rooftop area as well?
We would.
And how about any entertainment upstairs that you're considering?
Live music, I mean, sometimes like acoustic, nothing crazy. I think that's pretty much, yeah, that's it.
Would that be amplified music or just an unplugged acoustic guitar?
Just unplugged.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what hours would that stop?
Probably 11 to 2.
So mainly just during lunch hours, that would be?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a question.
Sure.
So, I have two concerns, and the one concern is that, again, you're increasing your space from pretty much a takeout restaurant, coffee place, and for seating 28 people, and you don't have really a garbage area. And I understand you're using someone else's property to store your cans, and you're allowed to have a 6 recyclable can or 3 recyclable cans, 3 regular cans. So I think that you maybe should have come with permission from your neighbor to order to use their property to store your garbage cans, because there is no rear, there's a negative 4-foot side yard setback and the other side is attached. So that's my main concern is, I love the idea of utilizing your rooftop. I'm sure you're going to make it look beautiful. However, the garbage for me is a concern, is that you don't have any room to put garbage cans on your own property. And you also have to remember that you have people to the north and the south of you, apartments. So you're going to be really looking into their bedrooms when you're having your morning coffee. So, that's maybe some type of buffer up there, vegetative buffer or something like that to block, their privacy as well. I have 3 things. And the third thing is, Frank, in order to become ADA compliant, I thought that, this is your expertise, not mine. It has to be 50%, because it seems to me that, any type of, renovation would have to be compliant, ADA compliant, especially when you're, potentially putting on an entire floor.
Good question. I mean, typically I would defer to the building department on something like that. I know Mr. Roth testified based on the code, it's not a requirement. I know as long as you can accommodate a handicapped person on the lower floor and serve them, you may be taking care of the issue, but you're not going to seat them unless you allow seating on the first floor. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. I don't have an ultimate answer for this.
Right, because there
We-
is no seating on the first floor, so
Right, exactly.
you're not offering a seating area for someone who is handicapped and cannot access the second floor. So to me, I mean, that just seemed odd to me. So
Right.
that's
Can I
my
address that?
So I guess, Mr. Roth, is there any way to have a handicapped person access even the lower floor?
The lower floor is totally accessible in as much as when you enter the building, you either walk up the steps in front of you or you go up the ramp that goes in a scissor type way to access that. The first floor is totally handicapped accessible.
Right.
And as I stated before, the building codes and the ADA codes, I've been in this business for over 45 years, is very specific. And if you're under the 50%, you do not need to comply. The first floor complies. If they wanted to put a small bistro table and chair downstairs for a handicapped person, they're more than they could do that, and that completely takes care of it. As far as the upstairs, just to address some of the concerns, if I may, buffering is very easily installed on either side, so the two-story buildings don't have to look at people, and then nobody's looking in theirs. The door on that semi-enclosed back area could be moved to the south side so that it's much more easily accessible to that yard for trash cans. So all of those concerns are very easily addressable.
But that yard is not the applicant's yard.
No, I'm talking about the area on the south rear.
Right?
The door goes out straight through the back or to the west.
I
A
know.
door could be added. A door could be added to the south side to access that yard.
And
You can see that side yard on the top of the area there. You can put a door out that semi-enclosed roof deck and totally access that area, which is probably at least 4 feet, 5 feet.
It's according to the plan, it's 3.5 feet from the building to the property line. 3.4.
No, I see that now. I stand corrected. But still, 3.5 feet is more than enough room for a trash
Right.
can.
I mean, it looks like you could probably fit 4 cans there.
Easily. So I appreciate the concerns and it's good that we're going over this, but they can all be taken care of. A door on that south side towards the rear would give us plenty of room for 6 trash cans.
I have another question also. What about railings or any kind of way to keep the rooftop enclosed for safety?
The railings will be 42 inches high, and they will be from deck to deck would be most likely an open vinyl rail. Along the front of the building would be a glass rail, and it would be tempered glass and commercial grade. Has to be.
How far back from the front of the building would that be to stop people
The
from
railing
dropping
will
coffee
be-
on passerbys?
Oh, that's a good point. Right now, it's basically at the top of at the edge of the building. But I'm
I mean,
sure
accidents do happen that way. That's a
You're
concern.
absolutely right, and I'm sure that we could. I can come up with a railing design that would provide a small shelf, and the actual railing would be higher than the 42 inches. Since it's glass, really, our goal is to be able to see through it and watch the people on the street.
What kind of, you said a rear fire escape system. What would that and where would that go? Since there is
It
no
would be
backyard.
on that. It would most likely be on the northerly section where we have 3 some odd feet between the property line. Yeah, there you go. I think that's 3. So it is 3 feet. So basically what it is, it's a fire escape. It's a ladder that would, when activated, it goes down to the ground. It's not accessible from the ground unless it's activated. It's just another way to get off the building.
So Rob, I really think you guys need to rethink this rear deck area. Obviously, this somehow got enclosed. I have no idea what's in it. It would make more sense to me to modify that whole outside area, give yourself more rear yard and get rid of part of that. The door to the building is at the center of it. So even if you cut from the door south off, that would give you much more yard area for your trash. And
I don't see that as being a problem, Frank. That enclosure, I've been in it. From my memory, it was not totally enclosed, but it is open to a certain point.
Right.
It would not be difficult to scale that back. It's going to have to be up to the owner. Right now, we're 1'8" off the rear property line. I'm sure we could take a couple feet off of that and make that much more accessible out that back door.
Yeah, and even
without walking.
Even the south side. I mean, you only have 3 feet. Why not open that up and have, 6 or 7 feet?
Again, Frank, these are excellent ideas. I have no problem doing it if that's the board wants to make that a condition. I think we have no problem doing it. I guess that question would be better asked as an architect and the planner. I would say yes, it could absolutely happen. But I think that question would be best answered by the owner.
And my other thought is for handicap accessibility, you may want to take you have 3 tables on the back deck. You might want to take one of those and put them downstairs. And just have
easily
3
done.
sets of 2.
Easily done. Not a problem. Actually, if we did it downstairs, I would make them 2-seat bistro tables as opposed to a 4-seat.
Yeah, in other words,
plenty
keep
of
the
room to
number of
do it.
seats the same, but put one of those downstairs.
Absolutely no problem doing that.
Because it's a restaurant, does it have to have any kind of handicap accessible bathroom? Because that bathroom is definitely not.
No,
compliant.
it's not a restaurant. It's a cafe which is serving coffee and pre-made baked goods. There's no
And
cooking.
coffee's a diuretic.
Again, we're looking at an existing structure. All we want to do is provide some outdoor seating. The bathroom is not accessible as a handicap, but it's not open to the public.
Okay.
Is there a fence on the back property line?
I do not know.
Is there any kind of easement or right of access that they have with the owner next door? I mean, could something like that would be very important, I think, if you're going to evacuate people into an enclosed area.
There's no easement as far as I know, Mr. Meadow. I mean, there's space you can walk through, but there's no easement that's established that allows them to do that. But in an emergency situation, there's room to get through there. So that's what I'm asking. And why don't we ask Grace a little bit with respect to that back area that's the covered area, we'll call it, where the building cuts in the back. What is that area currently utilized for?
That we just have a few there's like a table and a few chairs.
Is it storage?
We have more like plants and garden back there.
Is the building able to be modified to I guess reduce a part of that area and maybe to reconfigure the backyard?
Yeah, I think that's a possibility, definitely.
Okay. And if you don't mind, I think at this point, just now, because we're getting into the building itself and Grace is not the owner of the building, why don't we call either Jill Cicerchia or Frank Cicerchia?
Okay, I see a name with Mr. Cicerchia. Frank Cicerchia? There you go. You want to testify or does your wife want to testify?
I'll testify.
Okay, raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth?
Yes.
And your name and then your address, please.
Frank Chicurchia, 91 Bridle Path Lane, Mahwah, New Jersey.
Thank you.
Hi, Mr. Chicurchia. The owner of the property is 106 North Bay Avenue LLC. And it's my understanding your wife, Jill Chicurchia, is the sole member of that LLC?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and you have the authority from her to speak on behalf of the LLC?
Yes.
Okay, so you've heard the discussion. I guess the concern is the rear of the property, whether or not there's enough room to accommodate trash. Are there any modifications you think we could make to the building to allow for more space back there?
Yeah, it's very easily done because it's like a makeshift lattice. They could be modified to store more garbage if that's what they would like. And very easily accomplished. We can take care of that.
Okay. Yeah, I guess we can prepare a modified plan for the board. Would probably make the most sense.
They want to make it part of it could be conditional, use it as a condition.
Right.
Why don't we, hey, Jim?
Yes.
Why don't we just put it on the record that we'll modify the building, if this is okay with you, Frank, to provide 5 feet on the westerly side and 5 feet on the southerly side. There gives us enough room to relocate a door, to have lots of room back there, 5 feet and 5 feet, to store trash cans and everything else. And as Frank said, it's very doable. And I think 5 feet on the west side and 5 feet on the north or the south side could be a condition of approval.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Excuse me, I'm just adding one more thing. We also need some confirmation on some kind of a fire exit. We need to know exactly what's going to be there, how wide it is, if there's room enough on that back wall for people to get down, etc.
A fire ladder is only 2 feet wide. It's a system that the ladder is up in the air during non-use. It is released from the top, the ladder drops down, and they go down the 2 feet. There's more than enough room for that to happen. And that's just in the event of a fire.
Right. And that back wall is big enough to house that, right?
Yes,
that space.
More than enough. More than enough room.
Rob, can I ask you a question real quick? My concern is the roof itself. I don't normally ask questions, but what's the weight capacity? How many people can it hold, and how do we know if they're going to have music up there? It's not going to exceed that number.
No, the weight, the structure of the building I've investigated pretty thoroughly. Just so the board is aware, I'm a licensed architect with a degree from Syracuse University. I also have a structural engineering degree from New York Institute of Technology. The beams are strong enough. The spans are not that big. I don't see any issue with the weight level, with the amount of weight up there on this small section of this roof. The back section, like this covered porch, or where that roof starts to flatten out, I don't know that I'd want to put tables back there, but on the front section, that's, if you excuse the expression, it's built like a brick shit house.
The back.
I agree.
The shed, was that used as a prep area outside the building where they might have had refrigerators and prep tables? And
I don't believe there's any prep going on.
Well, I know now there's not, but before, I mean, is there,
I can't speak to that.
Is there any integrity to that structure?
It's structurally sound as a covered deck, slightly enclosed. But as we modify it, we'll obviously be making sure that it's structurally sound.
Well, does it need?
And I think actually this is a great opportunity, should the board approve this
does
application, for us to
even
guarantee that that back section is structurally sound.
Does it even need to
I
be?
can't tell you how it was built.
My question is, does it even need to be there? Maybe that should be removed and frees up a lot of issues.
I think the modifications we proposed is more than doable.
You're not answering the question, though.
I can't answer that. It's not my building.
What was the question, Mr. Stevens? Does what need to be there?
Does that shed even need to be there? Does it serve any purpose now? Or porch, deck, whatever you want to call it? It seems like it was a some sort of a prep area where they might have refrigerators when it was used as something else going years back.
Mhm.
I mean, does it have any integrity to that building at all? Or are we going to improve something that maybe should just be removed and solves all the problems?
I don't see the need to remove it completely. The modifications we proposed will be more than enough to meet the concerns of the board members. And again, it gives us an opportunity to make sure that structure is sound. It does provide some cover back there, and as for storage and trash and everything else, I don't see the need to have to remove it. It's already there. We'll modify it as we proposed, but I don't see the need to remove it. That's my opinion.
Okay, so Mr. Churchill, just to confirm, you would be agreeable to modifying the rear of the building so that the resulting setback right now from the west property line, it's 1.64 feet on the south side, 1.51 feet on the north side. So you'd be willing to bring that back so that it's a 5-foot setback to the westerly property line?
Absolutely no problem.
Okay, and then on the south side, where it's 3.49 feet, we would bring it to 5 feet there as well?
No problem at all.
And would that alleviate the board's concerns relative to the garbage in the rear?
In my opinion, yes.
Is there a reason why that you haven't shown us pictures of what the back actually looks like? Because I'm not really sure that the board is even familiar with what the back of this building looks like. I mean,
I did not take any pictures back there.
because I think if the board would see what looks back, it's really, I mean, it's like a shack. You would have to take down the whole structure. You're not going to be able to take down a little piece of that. I mean, it looks like a shack. Is there?
I've modified checks before, but
Right.
yes,
Well,
I feel that
people on
I've been back there a number of times. I didn't take any pictures back there, but from my memory, it's not that difficult to modify that and actually improve it, given the new setbacks we're proposing.
My feeling, Rob, is when you go back there to take that down, that whole thing's going to fall down. So it almost has to be reconstructed correctly in the footprint you're proposing.
Frank, that's a very good point, and I'll answer that this way: that if the board were to approve the modified setbacks, then we could take that structure down completely and rebuild it within the new setbacks.
Well, the question is, was it even built with a permit? Was it something that was used in a temporary basis also now becomes permanent? And it solves a lot of issues if it's not even there. So why are we going to sit there and improve something and make it more permanent than what it is?
I believe that when the property is sold, a re-CO is done, and there was no red flags as to whether it was there or whether it was permitted. That, from my opinion and looking at it the way that it is, it's been there a long time.
And does it have a foundation under it?
Yes, it does.
An adequate foundation?
Yes.
I don't know exactly how long it's been there, but the current owner just purchased the property. I believe it was back in May. The survey was done in May, and it was there at the time of the conveyance. So, and I believe it's been there for a long time.
Hey, my other question goes to Frank. Frank, on seating, is there a parking requirement?
No, it's based on the square footage of the building, and we calculated the square footage of the seating area, but regardless, there's no parking. So they need a variance for parking. And I believe in my letter, they need 4 spaces, they have none. So, and they're not going to be able to provide it based on just the nature of the property.
but you're expanding the use because you're going to take the rooftop and make that a seating area. So the
Right.
square footage is increasing.
Well,
It's just
technically, they probably needed 2 spaces for what they had, maybe 3 with a fraction. And by adding the upper seating area, you're pushing it to 4. So it was probably 2 originally, it needs 4. So you
It
may
could
be
be 6
doubling.
and they still can't provide it.
Yeah.
There was no other, when we did the resolution for them to be the 3-person review for them to open the coffee boutique up, wasn't there something else? There was some other discussion. I thought we had discussion in the 3-person review. We have that us granting that, what the memorialization that was? Lauren, do you know?
I believe there's a formal resolution with respect to the 3-person committee, but I'm not 100% sure.
I do have it up here. I see 2 different ones. I have one for the Coffee Nest at 100 North Bay Ave, and then I also have one for Artifacts and Company Coffee Nest from 8/27/2018, 106 North Bay Ave. So on the 3-person review, it just says applicant is downsizing her business. She will be moving from 100 North Bay Ave to the property next door at 106 North Bay Ave. The Coffee Nest will be going there also. Please advise.
Who was that 3-person review?
What was that question?
Who were the 3 people on that?
We have Bonnie, Penny, Jim.
Maybe I'm getting the other one confused with this one. It's possible.
And then we also had one for I guess for indoor seating. So stating that she's been approved for indoor seating and the selling of prepackaged muffins and croissants. With the outdoor seating, we will allow 4 tables and chairs on Center Street against the building. There will be no seating on Bay Avenue. If you have any questions, please contact me, Donna Marie. But that was at 100 North Bay Ave.
Yeah, maybe I'm thinking of that.
Yeah. And those 3. I have Bonnie, Jim, and Penny as well.
Thank you.
Yep.
Are there any further questions for either Rob or or to Grace?
I just have, is there one public restroom? One public restroom?
There's 2.
There's 2 restrooms?
And none of which are handicap accessible.
Wasn't
Even though the
required
building
way back
is.
then.
But the building is. But the building.
Yeah, there is one handicap bathroom.
Okay. Put over stuff though. Lord.
I have nothing else.
I only see one of the bathrooms. I'm sorry. I don't see a second one.
Grace, where are the 2 bathrooms located?
There's one on each side of the building. We are only using one right now. The other one we've basically just used for storage. Due to COVID, we have just had the one.
Because I see what Mrs. Ballmiller is discussing on the plan. There's only one toilet shown. Is the other?
Yeah, probably because of storage.
Okay, so opposite the one in the, so the back right corner is the one that has the toilet currently, and then the other one's across the building?
Right across, yeah, on the opposite wall.
When I measured the structure, there was so much stuff in there, I couldn't tell what was in there.
Okay. But the idea would to have both up and running when you open the rooftop?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, is there any other questions from the board members? If not, we can open it to the public. If we hear a motion.
Make a motion, Tom.
Second?
I'll second,
Scott.
Penny.
Okay, I guess we all agree, yes?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, if anybody has anything to say, they can just unmute themselves and begin speaking, and Bob will swear you in. Or you can press the raise your hand button and I will unmute you. All right.
Lauren, do you see anyone there?
I do
Hi,
have somebody.
hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Hi, this is Ramla Tayyab Khan. I'm a resident of 312 Center Street.
Hang on one second. I don't see you, ma'am. What's your name?
Ramla Tayyab Khan.
Okay, I don't see you, but I'm going to swear you in anyway. So, oh, there you are. Okay. Raise your right hand, ma'am. I'm sorry. You're up in the upper corner. So, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and your name again, please.
Ramla, Ramla, Tayyab Khan, Tayyabkhan, resident of 312 Center Street in Beach Haven.
Thank you.
So I have quite a few questions on this. I live right there, and we are surrounded by Barry's Do Me a Flavor, Triton, that has recently seen a customer boom in their customer base, Marlin, and then on the corner, of course, we have the How to Live Bayside. And I remember going to this coffee shop while it was in that space. So I actually am a very happy customer of this coffee business. And, you know, now they are right next to it as Coffee Nest. So are they, at the current point, are they zoned to be an eating establishment? Because I am actually very familiar with the space. I've been going there forever. They have plenty of space inside to actually have seating if they desire to be a non-counter space business. And if they're opening the rooftop, that's fine too. What really concerns me is if they're going to have seating, what stops them from having seating inside, like the downstairs and upstairs? And they're going to have this live music, right at the time when Barry's is also booming. 2 o'clock is also the start of happy hour at Triton, which also, you know, so and they already, I read in the letter that the zoning ordinance requires a total of 3 parking spaces at the property, which is based on the gross floor area of the current site. And currently they have, obviously they have 0 off site, and I get it. They are unable to have it. I get that. But what if this business suddenly decides that they're not going to be a coffee shop anymore, that they're going to be a restaurant, that they are going to sell prepared food, you know, all of a sudden we are now having an issue with parking and, you know, traffic, and, you know, we are living on Center Street, trash that the people leave behind, you know, and what time, and what about, like, currently they're a coffee shop, they will close at 7. I heard that's being said earlier. Another business would be open, you know, till much later. And I really have concerns about what happens if this business converts to something other than a coffee shop? How would that be handled? I don't know how that would be handled, so I want answers from, the council. And also, and I see something about waiver for a site plan. I was trying to understand that. I couldn't. And yeah, and what stops them from saying, well, we're going to do dinner as well. We're not going to close at 7. So these are my concerns, that area is extremely congested already. We have, diagonally across from them is Cheg's, which has expanded, right? Chegg has really expanded. Then we have Station 117. We have Buckaloo's. So they're coming in a space which is already dealing with a parking issue. And for the fact that they already need 3 and they have 0, and they're going to expand their space and need even more and still continue to have 0, because there is no way for this business to be able to provide parking. And I fully understand that the business as it stands today, and then the business as solely being confined to a coffee shop selling pastries, that's fine. But what stops it from becoming another kind of establishment?
You want me to address that, Mr. Shin?
Yes, go ahead, Jim.
Okay, so the approvals that we're seeking this evening is for the coffee shop alone and for the pastries. The hours of operation that Grace has testified to would be the hours that the business is open. So the board will adopt a resolution in the event the application is approved or denied. The board is going to prepare a written resolution, and if we're approved, there will be conditions set by the board that establishes what the use is. If it became a restaurant where they wanted to extend the hours of operation, they'd have to come back before the board for another site plan application to amend the approved site plan if they wanted to do that. So you would get notice if the nature of the use was going to change. So the approval will have conditions in it. If there are things going on at the establishment that violate those conditions, they could be cited by the code enforcement within the borough. So the site plan approval that they receive, in the event they receive it, would be subject to conditions and they could be subject to violations of that site plan approval in the event they don't comply.
There were various
Okay,
representations made by the applicant for hours, number of tables, number of chairs, all that's going to be applicable. And, if you see too many people up on the roof and they're not sitting down, then they've exceeded what they're allowed to have on the roof. They're allowed to have 28 patrons, 4 seats per table, 7 tables on the roof. That would be it. And if you see a party going on up there, you call enforcement. So, and if they want to do something besides what's being allowed here, she testified as to what they're going to serve. That's going to be in the resolution if it's approved. If you hear or go over there and find something else being sold, hot dogs, hamburgers, that's a violation. It's not allowed. So does that address your concerns with respect to that? The parking, obviously, there's nothing, as you know, there's nothing can be done about that.
Right. The parking we cannot do anything about the parking as it exists right now. But which is already bad enough. But what I'm trying to say is this is already taking it to the next level. They're increasing the amount of space. So already with if she were to have just seating on the first floor, already there is not enough parking for that. So now you're taking just the first floor and you don't have enough. And now you're going to have a rooftop. So you're going to increase, you already, are not compliant, but you're going to now increase the seating and still not be compliant. Hello?
Yeah, I understand your concerns. This is the type of business where there's going to be a lot of foot traffic, a lot of people on bicycles coming here to have coffee. And this goes with, the whole strip of businesses there. There is no parking for any of those businesses along the boulevard in that section, and the block to the north. It's just the nature of when you have these basically row of buildings that are connected, unfortunately, there's no parking, and that's the way that it's always been. We're not able to comply with that.
Yes, but that's when planning comes in. That's when my expectation from my borough is that this needs to be taken into consideration, that you cannot have one restaurant after another restaurant open up and increase seating in an area which is already seeing congested parking issues and, there are already existing issues. So when we are granting permits to new businesses that are coming in or expanding, we have to take into consideration what issues are being faced by businesses, residences in that area also. None of you live in that area. Meaning the ones that are applying for this, but I actually do. I live right there. And I see it firsthand every day, from Barry's to Triton to Marlin. And I see that, yes, there's 2 municipal lots there as well, right next to our townhomes. And they are packed. They are totally packed. And this past year, Triton has exploded in their business capacity. Great for them. They're doing very well. But what I'm trying to tell you is it is crazy. So I don't understand how and if they really wanted seating, they actually are a 1-story. It's quite a large space there. They're not using it as a coffee shop. They're selling, it's very charming. They're selling artwork and furniture, and even I even see some clothing. So they actually, if they really wanted to have be a business that offers seating, they actually have enough space within the current building to offer that seating.
I would agree, and they're not looking, Mr. Little had mentioned possibly putting a table or 2 downstairs in the event somebody does want to sit down there. But the idea is, this is a unique opportunity where there's nothing like this, where you can sit elevated above probably the busiest area in town, and where you can just sit and people watch. And the 28 seats that are proposed are not a large number. There's plenty of establishments along that stretch that it's a permitted use to put a restaurant in any of those buildings. Of course, they would need site plan approval, but I think here the applicant would argue that the benefit of this particular service, where you're having people sitting on the roof there, outweighs any detriment that the borough may experience as a result of having the 28 seats at the business.
I would agree with
I
that.
would just end by saying that the borough needs to consider the quality of life issue for the residents of Center Street, Town Club of Center Street, and take it from there. That it would actually, any business, not just this business, any business, we have a choice of what kind of businesses the town can plan that should be going in, and how to take the expansion and at what rate, how much to expand, where to expand. I just feel that much as personally, I would love to be on a rooftop sipping a nice cold latte on a hot summer day, people watching. I really don't think that the location per se is ideal.
Lauren, are there any other?
Yes, we have another hand raised. Margaret,
Okay.
if you'd like to unmute yourself.
Can you,
Ma'am,
can
do
you
you
hear
have
me?
your video so I can see you?
I'm trying.
There, right there.
Where is it?
Top of the computer,
Wait, I'm trying. Hold on.
right here.
No, that you just muted me.
Nope, we can still hear you.
Let me just get to my video. I can't get there. Oh, here it is. Sorry. That should do it. There it goes. Sorry about that.
It's okay. Would you raise your right hand, ma'am? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth?
Yes.
Okay, and your name and address, please.
Margaret Damiani, 112 West Avenue.
Thank you.
I just want to say a little support for the business. It's a great little place that mostly everybody that does come there walks up or rides a bike. And I think that it's in holding with the town's plans of trying to maintain these businesses as businesses rather than restrict what they're trying to grow to maintain to stay alive in this day and age. So I think it's a great little place, and it coincides with the borough's plans of maintaining those businesses on the Bay Avenue and maintaining it to be inviting to people to come and visit as far as the business district goes. And the parking issue, obviously, you know, we all know that there's no parking in the summertime. It's a very difficult time, and we just use the public parking on Bay Avenue. That's how it is. But many people, when I go there, everybody is either walking or via bike. So I just wanted to say a word of support. That was it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lauren, anybody else?
I have Ramla with her hand raised again. I don't know if that was an accident or you have something else to say. I think that is it.
Okay, do I hear a motion to close the public portion?
Motion to close, Scott.
Second?
Second, Tom.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, is there any discussion with the board before we vote?
I'd like to say that I agree with, forgive me, it's easier just to mention Ramla's first name than to try to, in one respect that, you know, I'm sure this is a charming business. I'm sure the use for coffee and acoustic is great, but are we setting ourselves up for the next business? Or the building sells and we've committed ourselves to rooftop, this many, you know, a different business model, different hours. Could be a bring your own place, you know, and now you've got people on the street above Bay Ave socializing, and it's used for a different purpose than what's being laid out here. I mean, do we have to just be really specific that should we approve this, it's for real defined use times, acoustic till 2, not other music, so forth and so on.
Yeah, all the representations that were made by the applicant and the professionals will be included in any resolution. The 7 hours in the summer and the limited less hours in the off season. That's not defined, obviously, but the number of tables, chairs, all that will be in any resolution.
I think Mr. Balbo has a valid point with the idea that are we setting ourselves up to something that we don't want to see happen? There's a couple of places real close by, maybe on the next corner, who would love to have, who has a very big, large rooftop with a liquor license attached to it. You know, it could very easily snowball if not done carefully. Everybody likes to be outside during the summer.
Any other comments from board members?
This is Scott. The one comment I'd like to make is, and I'm going to reiterate something that was said several meetings earlier. One of us issued a buyer beware statement where residents buying in adjacent areas to downtown knew where they were buying and what they were getting into when they did. So expressing concern over the business district is kind of, you know, they knew what they were getting into when they bought there. And I don't believe that should this be approved, it would be much of a detriment to residents given the time slot that it's open.
I'll just remind the board that one thing you've got to remember, whenever you grant a variance, variances are unique to the property. So if that's a concern, you know, that the neighbors might decide to ask for the same thing, you do this on a case-by-case basis, depending on what the property and the situation brings. So there's no real precedent to approving something like this. I just mentioned that.
Okay,
There's 9 people eligible to vote too, so everybody that's here can vote.
I would really like to see what they're going to do at the back. I don't really feel comfortable them having no specific trash area and no specific rendering of what the back could look like. I'm really not concerned with parking. I do believe it's going to be foot traffic. They don't have any bikes. People put their bikes anyway, but there is no place for that to happen. But I am concerned, about the garbage and the trash. It's a very congested area, and they don't have a dumpster, so they have to utilize the trash pickup on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, or Monday, Wednesday, Friday, whichever they are, north or south, they fall into. So I really feel that we need to see, some type of a better rendering of what the shack in the back, when that is taken down, what that's going to look like.
Yeah, this is Frank. I have the same concerns, for, just on behalf of the board, that making this a conditional approval for this business is a little scary. So I agree. I would rather see some details, a section in the back. I'd like to see how where the fire ladder is going to be placed. Are they moving the tables around? We talked about it. Also, there's the full bathrooms aren't shown on the plan. The other thing I'm concerned about is we talked about buffering the tables from any adjoining apartments. So is that going to be a solid vinyl fence on either side of the tables? I think we need to see more detail on that also.
Are-
And the
are the
aspect
other-
of shade. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to ask if the other board members are in agreement, with having them come back with more detail than as what our discussion was to next month's meeting. Is everybody in agreement with that? Or-
I would suggest you do an informal poll, Jim, and then we'll
Okay.
refer it back to Mr. Raven to make sure he and Mr. Roth can present something. I think it's November 1st, our next meeting. And whether they'll waive timeframes. So
Okay, Lauren, do you want to take an unofficial poll here?
Yeah, sure. Would you like me to do roll call, or was like a first and second?
Well, just you can do a roll call down the line, or we can just say yay or nay as far as coming back with the details that we discussed, so that it's understood.
Okay, so we're gonna motion to carry the application?
no.
I'm sorry.
No, we're just trying to get a feel now for the board, whether they want to decide it tonight or ask the applicant to come back with more information.
I gotcha. So I'll go through roll call.
So it's just an informal, we're not doing a motion yet, just an informal roll call.
Just-
So we can go back to Mr. Raven and Mr. Roth and ask their.
You got it. All right, Mr. Meadow?
Yeah, I think we need more information. It's the top of a roof of a building. Roofs are typically hot in the summer, and it's one side to south side. There's a big building alongside it. They're going to probably need some shade up there, whether that be in the way of the sail type things that people have been putting up. They're pretty nice looking, but I imagine they're going to probably want to do something like that. So maybe that should be included if they come back.
Mrs. Ballmiller?
Yeah, I need more information, especially with, I know what the back looks like, and there is no room for garbage. And I'd like to see some type of buffering on the rooftop as well.
Right. Mr. Stevens?
I agree with them coming back, and I would like to see definitely more detail on the shed and structurally, whether that is sound or not sound. And I think the architect can give us a better review on that when he comes back.
Mr. Pisano?
Yes, I like the concept of going upstairs and enjoying your coffee or whatever during the hours of operation. But it's just a little sketchy about what's going on in the back. I don't really know about that. And I agree with Tom. I really think that there should be something included if the applicant decides to come back. That either a sail or maybe something even permanent, like a pergola or something light. to kind of block the sun, because it will be unbearably hot up there. But I do like the concept, but I do need more information to feel really good about making a decision on voting on this application. So yes, I'd like to see the applicant come back.
Okay, Mrs. Eddles?
I agree, yes. There's still too many specifics I would like answered, so let's hope they come back next month.
Mr. Muha?
Yes, I agree, more information.
Mr. Hransky?
Yeah, I'd like to see the plans updated to answer our questions. I think I like the idea, but I think the concerns should be answered so that we can comfortably understand appropriately. So yes, come back, please.
Mr. Jenna?
Yes, I'd like to see more information before we make a final decision on this.
Mr. Tinquist?
Yes, more information.
Mr. Balbo?
More information, please.
Okay, so,
Okay, Bob, you want to take it over?
yeah, Mr. Raven, you heard what the board suggested. They can vote on it tonight. We could do a second motion and they can decide it tonight, or they can carry it until Lauren, November 1st.
Before we get to the motion, Mr. Little, one question. You mentioned vinyl fencing along some area that you were.
We talked about buffering the upper
that would
seating
be-
area
That would
from
be part of the buffering.
the residents. So I don't know how you would do that, other than put a solid fence or something. up
I
there.
will come up with a buffering detail for you.
Okay.
So I guess the question is, Mr. Roth, the next meeting is November 1st, so it comes up quickly, being that the 1st is a Monday. Revised plans would need to be in by October 22nd. Does that enable you enough time? Which is,
yes.
Okay. So we would request that the application be carried to the November 1st meeting. We would request that no further notice be required, and we would waive all time limits within which the board's required to act. And the revised plans would be submitted by October 22nd.
Okay, so with that being said, Jim, you need a motion to carry the application until November 1st, 2021 at 6:00 p.m. No further notice is being necessary. It's going to be announced that will be the next meeting. Mr. Roth will have plans to Frank and to the board within 10 days. Let's see, 10/22. So he'll have the plans to us, and then we'll come back and revisit this. So you need a motion to accept all that.
And we'll put them first on the agenda. I apologize. Do I hear a motion?
So move.
Second.
Penny.
Second.
We need to do roll call or just a?
I do a roll call on this one.
Okay.
Mr. Meadow?
Yes.
Mrs. Baumiller?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Mr. Muha?
Yes.
Mr. Hransky?
Yes.
Mr. Jenna?
Yes.
All right, application carried.
Okay, and just so the public knows, I imagine most of you are gone now, but if there's anybody in the public, this will not be renoticed. You will not get a new certified letter. You will not see anything in the newspaper. It's being carried to this next date. Mark that in your calendar. Tell your neighbors if they have concerns, but you won't get a further notice on it. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for bearing with me. Do I hear a motion to close the meeting?
I make a motion to close.
Second?
I second.
Second, Tom.
See you all next month. Thank you.
All right. See
Good
you.
job, Jim. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Jim.
Good job.